My name is Cindy Dougherty, and my presentation today is Your Child Can Learn. This is a little bit about me. I live outside of Chicago. I'm about 25 minutes west of the city. I'm a special education teacher. I've been a special education teacher for 15 years. My main experience has been with children with significant disabilities who are nonverbal or AAC users. Most importantly, right now, I've been a teacher and case manager for an adult with Mowatt-Wilson syndrome for the past 6 years. I started a homeschool program for her at the age of 16. She is now 22. She just recently graduated, and that's us on her graduation day. That's Liz. And she's holding a bear because she calls me the bear in her device. She's nicknamed me the bear. So it's a true story. So I got her a bear from the bear, and I'm also a mom. I have 2 neurotypical kids at home, ages 7 and 5, and if any of you have any questions that I don't get to answer, please email me. You can write that down now. My plane leaves at 6 to go back to Chicago, so I'm going to be like motoring out of here. So please email me with any questions if I can't answer all of them. And I can also email you this presentation as well, or Dropbox it to you. So please take down this information. So let's talk about our kids with Mowatt-Wilson syndrome. So I've been in education for many years, and I've seen lots of students who have various and unique ways of communicating. However, when I first saw Liz walk through the door, and Liz was at my first presentation, and I wish you guys could see her now, but when I first saw Liz walk through the door, I looked at her mom and I said, after our initial meeting, and I said, I don't think I can teach her. And I was very honest, like I was very scared about teaching Liz. It was nerve-wracking to me because of my first impression. So and that's me being a seasoned teacher. That was 5 years ago. So I had been teaching 10 years, and I thought, I don't think, I'm going to be able to reach Liz. So if you have an educational team that's new, right? If you have a new teacher, if you have a new speech path, if you have a new occupational therapist, their first impressions may not be as favorable. So this is what they generally will see with our kiddos, right? A student with unpredictable motor patterns, difficulty completing motor demands on command, unconventional ways of communicating, does not appear to be able to read. They get easily frustrated, and traditional assessments have students scoring way below their developmental norms. And I know it's hard to hear, but how many of us have older kids and we hear, Mrs. and Mr. So-and-so, your child is developing at 24 months, right? I'm sorry, their OT skills are at 36 months. And that's really hard to hear because I don't believe that in these kids, and I'm sure you don't believe that in your own kids, right? It's just that these assessments cannot be adapted because they're not considered valid if they're adapted or changed in any way. So I believe that all kids can learn no matter what, and your educational team should too. These first impressions should not dictate their future educational programming. It just should not. And this difficulty completing motor demands and commands, that's really important. I mean, it's how they access the world. It's how they access their device. I work with a kid who has autism. He's an adult, and he looks funny. He does. He has weird motor patterns. He was at a mall in a suburb of Chicago, and he was by himself. His mom was just in the store returning something, and somebody called the police on him. And the police officer said, put your hands up. He can't put his hands up. His motor planning does not allow him to put his hands up. He was arrested. So motor planning is very important to teach our kids how to organize their body so they can access the world and follow commands. So should these first impressions and results predict learning potential? If I were to judge Liz right now thinking, I don't think I can reach her, I'm not lying when I say this, she would be in her wheelchair, chewing on her fingers, watching Barney somewhere. Because nobody believed that she was able to learn. Everybody went by her first impressions and the invalid assessments. So what's the secret? How can we get people to believe that our children are capable of learning, that your child can learn? That's the key. Their first impression shouldn't define them. And I wish I had a secret potion that I could give everybody to take back to their team. When I was in the classroom still, right now I'm a private provider, but when I was in the classroom still, I had a very complex caseload. I had kids with autism, I had kids with multi-needs, and I had a consultant come into my classroom, and she could just get instructional control of my classroom. She commanded the room, you know. I would have a kid screaming on a chair, and she would come over and whisper something in his ear, and he would be sitting down, and I said, what's your secret? And she said, it's my perfume. I wear Stella by Stella McCartney. I went out and bought the perfume that night. Like, I thought if I wore this perfume that these kids would love me. Obviously, that wasn't the secret, but I wish it was. So the secret is basically simple. It's to assume intelligence. I assume that every kid can learn. I assume that every kid knows something, right? We get these goals in education that are just ridiculous sometimes. Like 70% of the time, they will identify red. Well, what's identifying red 70% of the time really going to do? If you can't identify red 100% of the time, you can't identify red. You just can't. It's the goals that schools give are just ridiculous. So, you know, basically, I'm not saying that our kids don't have cognitive delays. Some of them probably do. Some of the cognitive delays may be significant. I don't know, because, again, assessments aren't valid. But what I do assume is that they are capable of learning in some sort of way, that we are able to reach our kids if we reflect on ourselves and if teachers reflect on their own ability. So this is from a real research paper that's out. This is a published paper. Ann Donnellan concluded a research study that found poor student performance is due to instructional inadequacy rather than student deficits. And this paper, research paper, was based on children with complex needs. This isn't a research paper that was for our kids with learning disabilities. This is complex needs kids. So poor student performance is due to the instruction, not the student. Or performance is linked to instruction, not student deficits. And children learn best when they feel supported, have high expectations, and when they are taught and supported well. And isn't that the truth? If we go to work and if we're given all the tools we need to do our job correctly, we perform better at our job. If we know our boss is confident in us and will give us a raise, we work even harder for that job. So neurotypical students feel this way all the time, right? Our kids that are neurotypical, teachers have high expectations of them. Teachers give their best every single day, and those kids succeed. So our kids who have the most significant needs are entitled to the same, if not more. So this is the danger in not assuming intelligence. People talk to students as if they are much younger than what they really are, right? So you can have a 13-year-old, and if your teacher isn't, or somebody on your educational team is not assuming they're intelligent, they're talking to them like they're a 5-year-old. And they're doing inappropriate tasks as well, inappropriate work. I call this the inclusion illusion. Students are not included properly. They basically become just someplace to sit, fill the seat. So when you don't think that our children are intelligent, they're going in for a music class, and they're really not interested in music probably, right? I mean, they're just filling the seat. Or art, right? Well, maybe they like art, but they may not be able to cut and hold those scissors. They're just filling the seat. They're not engaged in content, and that's not real inclusion. Inclusion is supposed to be a win-win situation. The child is getting something out of it in learning, and the other students are getting something out of it as well. And last, assessments are one-dimensional, meaning that they're really only testing IQ generally, or cognitive ability. Gardner has identified 8 forms of intelligence, and it's a shame that our kids who probably are gifted in other areas like spatial recognition or music or interpersonal skills, those things aren't assessed on tests. The tests that are given to our kids are to test cognitive functioning, and those are flawed. So this is a paradigm shift. What can I learn from them in order to teach them? So teachers are programmed, right, to teach to test. We're programmed to take data. I was the data queen. I have binders of data still that I've saved in case anything should come back to me. So that's how teachers are programmed, for assessments, to take data, to teach to the task. So the teachers that should be on your team now need to be thinking, what can I learn from this student so I can teach them better? What do I need to learn about their motor pattern? What do I need to learn about their assistive technology so I can be the most effective teacher possible? So here's something to think about. Students with multiple disabilities and severe disabilities make up less than 2% of the total population in US schools. The expectation of reading achievement so far has been sight word reading only for our kids. That means identify the word the, identify the word of, identify the word but. That's the only form of literacy instruction the majority of time that our kids have been given. So for neurotypical kids, I'm not sure how many of you know this, they get 90 minutes of reading instruction a day in a classroom. So 90 minutes a day, they're usually rotating centers and they're getting reading and writing and working with words. They're immersed in literacy for 90 minutes a day. Our kiddos deserve that at least, if not more. These are kids with the most significant needs, and all they're being taught is to identify functional words: exit, bathroom, walk, stop, read. It doesn't make sense. Because who actually reads this way? Who goes around reading flashcards all day? I don't. I don't think any of you probably read flashcards all day, but this is how our kids are taught. I call this kill and drill. We're going to drill it and drill it and drill it, and they're never going to make any meaning out of it. Because now we're doubling our work, because we know that our kids have a problem with generalization, right? So they may learn something great in a cube at school with dividers around it, and that's great, and that's the way classroom and special ed should be set up. But if you give them a book with sight words, most of the time they're not going to take from that flashcard and generalize it to that book. So now we've just doubled our work as educators and as parents. So we need to be teaching reading and teaching skills in context, because education for anyone, for us, needs to be synthesized and applied. You know, this is why I have failed chemistry and finite math in college. I'm not good at it, I don't understand it, I memorized it for the test, and I cannot do it today. So if we only teach them with flashcards, they're not going to apply it in real life. So if you guys don't know these names in literacy for kids with complex disabilities, write them down, Google them, memorize them. Karen Erickson and David Copenhaver. And if you can ever see them talk in person, that is a gift from God. They are from the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. They've opened up a center called the Center for Disabilities, Literacy and Instruction. They give camps around the country for children with complex needs in reading and literacy instruction. And they're an amazing team. And they wrote this book called Children with Disabilities, Reading and Writing the 4 Block Ways. And this is what their research has shown, that we do not believe that a different curriculum is required in order for children with disabilities to succeed in learning to read and write. So that means those flashcard days are out. That's not what our children need. We have learned that teachers must attend consciously and thoughtfully to significant learning differences of children with disabilities in order to make good instruction accessible for these students. So that means teachers need to do better. Teachers don't need fancy curriculums with sight words. Teachers don't need to be teaching functional words. They need to have better instruction using the same curriculum as any other first or second grader. Does that make sense? Good instruction is the difference. So overall, what does this mean? It means that your children should be receiving 90 minutes of literacy instruction a day, just like anybody else would. This includes word work, guided reading, writing, and self-selected reading. And this is the book that Karen and David wrote. And it's great. you can download it. It gives great examples of how you can adapt things to meet your children's needs. So you might be thinking, how can I make this happen? That your kids are intelligent, and how can we prove this? It all comes down to communication. Your child deserves and is entitled to a communication device. So when I started working with my girl with Mowatt Wilson syndrome, we gave her, I'm getting to her homepage, I'm sorry, a dynamic display device. I'm not talking about 8 locations. Nobody talks with just 8 words. I'm not talking about 4 locations, because there's even fewer people who talk with 4 words. I'm talking about a device that you can model nonstop, so they can show the world what they're capable of. This is a Dynavox, and we have a customized language system on her that I worked with her speech path in developing. But this allows me to model nonstop for her how language is composed and how she can show her intelligence. And in turn, she learned the same just through my modeling. So there's evidence to suggest that students with multiple and severe disabilities who use AAC systems like this can use decoding strategies to identify new words. So this means that they're sounding out new words if they are constantly exposed to using the device within reading and literacy. So that means she's just not reading sight words. It means I'm giving her a word like cake, and she's able to spell it out on her device because I'm making it meaningful to her. And it's also good for obviously increasing language with writing. It supports communication. So a dynamic display device is definitely needed for our kiddos. And something that you should know, this is just good information, is before the age of 4, typical developing children hear 26 million words. That's a lot of words, 26 million words. And I think it's hard when we have kids with complex needs, because when they're born and through early childhood, let's be honest, we're worried about keeping them alive, right? There's so many medical problems going on. We're not thinking about, we need a communication device. We need to be exposing them to language. We need to be exposing them to literacy, but that's what they need to develop. This came from a complex communication user article that early experiences of individuals who require AAC differ significantly from those speaking individuals in 2 important ways. First of all, this is what it's saying, communication device users rarely see communication partners, that would be like a teacher or somebody at home, using their device to express language. So they don't know how it works. If they're not modeling, they're not going to know how it works. How do children learn to talk? By imitating, right? Like, oh, when my son's learning to talk, look, the car is going fast, and he's watching me play with the car, and I'm talking about it. Well, if you're not modeling it for our communication device users, their expressive language, they're not going to know how to use it. So when I'm working with Liz, and we're watching a video on Adam Levine, because she thinks Adam Levine is really a good-looking guy, and she's smart, she's right, I'm saying, like, I think, let me tell you what I think, Liz. I think that this is fun. I think this is fun. And you know what else, Liz? I'm going to description, and I'm talking about it. I'm going to description and weather. I'm going to next page. I'm going to looks. He's also pretty. Like, I'm constantly modeling to her in context what she should be doing with the device. This is how she's going to learn language. Second, they are less likely than speaking children to participate in interactions which they have opportunities to make use of their expressive communication. So they're not going to parties and using their device, and they're not playing games with their device, because what do we do as communication partners typically, or what do they do in school? They're drilling and killing. What do you want for snack? Tell me what you want. What do you want for snack? How many do you want? There's zero meaning to language with typical complex communication needs kids, because everything is drill and kill, assessments. It needs to be meaningful, and it needs to be modeled. So research also shows that when children and adults have a means to communicate and are given high quality instruction, so that goes back to teachers changing the way they teach, they become more capable. And again, I just want to point out that Liz did not get good modeling until the age of 16. So think about if she was given this at the age of 6. You know, things would have been a lot different. A lot different. So children with complex communication needs have shown an increase in their expressive and receptive language when they are provided with model-based interventions in a natural context. And that goes back to talking about Adam Levine. And the big problem is most of the time communicative partners interrupt the AAC device users because it takes a really long time for them to communicate, right? They don't know how to motor plan through the device. They may not understand where a word is in the device of what they want to say. So what do? We stop what they say and we change it to a yes or no question. Were you hungry? Yes or no? Did you want a pretzel? Yes or no? So we're not giving them the opportunity even to get out what they want to say because the communicative partner is getting frustrated. You know, half the time it has to do with us, not them. So we all have to change the way that we think. And another thing that oftentimes happen is we worry about the technology more than we're worrying about what they have to say. You know, so we're worrying about the iPad. We're worried about the Dynavox. Well, I don't care about the device. I just want to know what's going on inside your head. We also have to provide multiple opportunities to communicate. So I'm just not communicating to her for your needs and wants. I'm not communicating because I want to know, you know, what do they do in school? What's the weather outside? You know, circle time. I want to know what's going on inside your head. Give me a comment about something. What did you think about that concert? I'm sorry, Liz. It's time for a break right now. What do you think about that? I'm leaving it open-ended to her because this device is more for just your needs and wants. This device is truly because I want to know what you think of something. Your voice matters. Your opinion matters to me. And most importantly, as well, we need to provide more than just a few picture symbols. Like I said, I don't know how many words this has. I mean, it's over 500. She has over 500 words in here, and plus she has a keyboard that we use for typing as well. So we need to provide a robust vocabulary system that allows them to put words together and supports them to contribute in every situation. You know, when you're just given 8 words to communicate, you're not being a robust communicator. You know, you're getting your needs and wants met, maybe. You know, bathroom, snack, what's usually on 8 locations. Bathroom, snack, yes, no, break. You know, they have a lot more to say than just 8 words. And I think it's important that we need to be meaning makers and not assessment specialists. Okay, we need to make meaning to our children's language and learning. It's not our job to test our kids nonstop. You know, I'm not assessing, does Liz really know this? You know, I'm taking it back to neurotypical language development because that's important. When I'm taking my son to the zoo at the age of 2 and he sees a lion and he's saying, Mama, big lion, Mama, big lion. I'm not saying, David, stop. You can't say big and you can't say mama because you haven't mastered lion 70% of the time in your animals category. You know, like, I don't understand why there's this idea that we have to limit vocabulary for children because they haven't mastered more than 8 locations. Maybe they're sick of saying water nonstop. Maybe they're sick of saying snack 500 times. You know, they may have more to say. So it is our job to be meaning makers with modeling and not assessment specialists. And it's not about the device because there's always the latest and greatest technology. It's about the language. So a robust language. Because devices are always going to change, right? I mean, every day, like, oh, the new iPhone 8's out or whatever it is now. So we need to find a language system that works for our child and not a device. So this is touch chat language that's generally on an iPad. This is called Sonoflex language. This is Dynavox owned. So you'd see it on a Dynavox or a Tobii. This is LAMP, language acquisition through motor planning. You'd see this on a PRC device. and that's Proloquo, and that's on an iPad as well. So these are the typical language systems you'd see most robust or dynamic display device users utilizing, and they can be tweaked a little bit. I think that's a 24, 48 location. You can tweak it to be like 16 location, but then you're just going to have multiple pages because you're not really taking away language from them. You're just taking away their visual space. So they're going to need more hits, if that makes sense. So, you know, if some of this was taken away, you just have to hit something 2 or 3 more times to get to the language that you need because you're just taking away their visual capacity. You're not taking away language. So our students need access to their curriculum in order to learn, participate, and engage in the world around them. If you don't have proper access to your curriculum, then you're not going to learn. So these are common, and when I say access, I think something we need to know, it's the what do you need to learn and how are you going to get there? Okay, so if we're talking about reading, I want to be able to read a book. How am I going to access that book? What tools do I need in order to be independent and in order to learn? That's what access is. How can I be as independent as possible? So typical forms of access are specialized seating, specialized trays, touch computer screens, keyguard for computers, eye gaze, specialized computer software. Have you guys ever heard of the Clicker program? So I have a video on it. Clicker is my best friend. I should get commission from the Crick software team in England because I love it that much. IntelliTools, switches, slant boards, arm supports, environmental controls, specialized devices, and stands. Access is individualized for all of our kiddos depending on what they need, and that's that I in IEP, right? It's individualized. It's not a one-size-fits-all, and you know, I don't care what OT tells you this. I don't care what PT tells you this. You're not ordering something off of Amazon and it's going to work for your kid. Most of the time, it needs to be adapted somehow to meet their individual needs. So access for learning. I call these quick, easy ways to communicate. I do use these things, but it's not my main way of having a kid access their curriculum. So this is a Tech 8. That's a Tech 4. This is a communication board. Nobody can really get out everything they want to say using one of these things. They may be able to, maybe it's okay if you want a quick, easy way to communicate for snack, but this isn't really a way to access your curriculum. And this Big Mac switch is ridiculous. What, you can program 5 seconds of speech on it, 10 seconds of a sentence? You know, that's really not, that you're programming. It's not even what they're thinking. So it's not true access to the curriculum. I have a lot more to say than just one switch hit. You know, I said in our conference, our last session, if this was programmed with I want wine, I want coffee, I might be set for maybe half the day, but other than that, it's not going to work. That is not access, that is not communication. It's a tool. This is a tool, that's all it is. So I know I've been talking a lot about communication, and there is going to be a seminar on, you know, that tomorrow. But access is more than communication. It's how can you best independently access your school environment, your home environment? What do you need to be as independent as possible? And we all have different ways we access things. And I'm not talking about being accessible with our phone, like we're all accessible with our phone, but we have different access methods on our phones, even on our watches now, right? So we can experience the world better. You know, we have larger text, we have different lighting, we can speak to things. So it's what do you need in order to be as independent as possible and as quickly as possible. And you know, you don't need all these fancy gadgets. You know, it's nice, but sometimes low-tech things work great. I use a lot of low-tech things. And you can start off small and build up. So this is a video. I just want to show you some different ways that Liz has grown in her access. Have you guys ever seen eye gaze technology work? Okay, so I'm training Liz now to use eye gaze technology because we've moved up the continuum, and I want her to independently watch videos for leisure time. I want her to be able to comment with her eyes, and so I'm having her in a very natural context watch one of her favorite videos. She loves Carpool Karaoke with James Corden. It's like her most reinforcing video. I'm not lying, she loves it. So he had that competition a little bit ago where if you made a donation to AIDS research, you could put your name in a drawing to have a carpool karaoke ride. I must have donated $50. I wanted her to win so badly. So she's watching a carpool karaoke video, and then I want to know what she thinks of it, okay? And if, for those of you who haven't seen eye gaze technology, when it's red and pops up, that means her eyes are looking at it. Okay? And in order for it to access, you have to look at it. You can change it. I think she has to hold it for 1.3 seconds. I mean, it's fast. It's really quick.
Okay, girlfriend.
This is weird.
Is it weird that I'm making you talk with your eyes? What do you think of the video? Your eyes need to hold on to it a little bit longer, okay? Put your hand down, sweet love. Let's go.
That rocks.
Perfect.
So, I mean, that was 9 locations. I mean, on a eye gaze that's moving pretty quickly. So, you know, there's different ways you can change the access to make it as independent as possible. So this is also using eye gaze. It's just like a little bar that sits at the bottom of your screen. And almost every computer is eye gaze accessible now. And I want her to watch her own videos. You know, I don't always want to choose things for her. You know, that's not real life. She needs some autonomy. So this is a music player we created that allows her to pick her own videos.
I want to choose a different video. Let's watch moves like Jagger.
Smart girl. And then part of the video pops up. So, yeah, so, I mean, she works really hard, and guess what? That's motivating, and that's natural, and I'm assuming she can make a choice, you know, and that's not me doing it. I mean, I'm behind her, but you have to be a certain inches away for it to pick up your eyes, so it's all her. She's done a great job with it. So how do I know this works? Well, I've done it. The proof is in the pudding. Let me tell you about Liz. I started working with Liz when she was 16 years old. When I first started working with her, she was reading at a kindergarten level, and she's now reading at a 3rd grade level. She was writing in a closed sentence format. That means just filling in the blank. Like, I think it is, fill in the blank. She's now writing in paragraphs using her keyboard on her device. Liz was spelling basic CVC words like cat and bat, and we're now teaching her to type using phonics. Liz was a basic needs and want communicator, very basic. She's now commenting, engaging in social media. She has her own Facebook account, so every day we check in and make comments because, I mean, that's cool for her to do. She's 22. She should be doing cool things. She's expressing her thoughts and feelings. and is engaged in the world around her. And we actually went on an Adam Levine campaign when he came to Chicago to meet him, and we had like 10,000 shares, and we were this close, but a boy with Down syndrome stole our thunder. Literally, a week before the concert, he was on the ground, deep breathing with some boy with Down syndrome, and I was so mad. And I can say this because my sister-in-law has Down syndrome, so I feel like I have a rite of passage to say this. I'm like, those darn Down syndrome kids always get the attention. It's not fair. So I was not happy. I mean, he did a nice thing, but give me a break. All right. And so then Liz moved from a basic access system, which was adapted books, to a dynamic access system computer training system with environmental controls. And what did we do? Well, we found communication and access that works, right? So we found that this works for her because we modeled. We assembled a multidisciplinary dream team that assumed intelligence. So we have an OT, a PT, an assistive technology specialist, an art therapist, a music therapist. I hired another teacher to work under me because I couldn't work all of the hours, but I work directly with Liz 4 hours a day, mostly 5 days a week. We use systematic evidence-based instructions and curriculums. Every 3 months, we would evaluate progress and modify it, and we made a lot of mistakes, and we got back on that horse. So these are just some examples of Liz's access system. This is her specialized bowl that we had made, because for her fine motor, if we want to work on stabbing food, if there's a flat plate, the food is just going to go like this, right? So we needed to design a bowl that we could stab it in a corner for her. So this bowl allowed her to move the food to the corner and stab it and pick it up. Do any of your kiddos have this little, I don't know what it's called, I just say doodad at the bottom of their straws? Yeah, so that allows her to suck easier, makes her really get the sucking motion so she's not doing a lot of backwash. We modified a very expensive purse. This purse is a magnetic, like Michael Kors purse, but we wanted her to independently be able to pull out her debit cards and her ID, like when we're out in the community. So we took it to the upholstery shop, had some foam put in it, cut out exact notches for her cards so she can just pull out her cards independently and put them back in. And this was an act of love, a labor of love. Her chair is very specialized. This is a Rifton chair. We built up the sides completely to give her hip support. We had to build a base to the bottom because she shuffles her feet a lot. So we needed her feet to be in a firm position. And this tray goes over her and around, and it kind of looks like a torture system, but it's not. Inside, her dad is a brilliant genius. Her dad should be an AT. Put in a mini car jack. So this tray weighs like 50 pounds, 60 pounds, but it allows me to adjust the height of the tray to meet her access needs that day. So if her arms are really flailing and she can't control herself, I can adjust the jack inside to give her more shoulder support because that's what she needs, is shoulder control. If she's having a great access day, I can lower the tray so she can be more independent. So we've gotten really creative in how we teach Liz to access her computer and her environment because this was her tray before. It was flat. You know, our kiddos need to be raised. The playing field needs to be level for them. You know, gravity alone, they need to be even. So, you know, we've experimented a lot. This is called a Microsoft Pro Surface, and it's one of the only tablets that is eye gaze accessible. So we bought this is that Tobii eye gaze bar. So you can put that at the bottom of the Surface Pro, and you can eye gaze wherever. We can take that on the go. She plays the piano. So her dad built in an armrest for her, so she can rest her arms to play the piano. This is one of her adapted paintbrushes, and then we have the adapted handle for her comb to brush her hair. Something you can't see, this is like her makeup drawer. She really likes to wear makeup and be girly. So we Velcroed all of the brushes down and all of the makeup down so she's just able to pick and choose what she wants. Most importantly, we followed a prompting and cueing level because our kiddos hear so many different languages from so many different people, and they all mean different things, so it was important that we all stay on the same page with her. So Liz knows that we need her eyes and her body in order to be ready to learn. Because if your body's not still, if I don't have your eyes looking at what you need to be looking at, we have a serious problem. You need to find the answer with your eyes and get your body there. I say this for every kid I teach, not just Liz, but my kids with autism, my Rett syndrome girls, especially Rett syndrome girls. Your eyes are the key to the kingdom. So their bodies may not physically be able to do something, right? Because their brain just, the wires are getting crossed. But if you're looking at it, I know that's what you want. So Liz, if your eyes are on the device and I see that you're looking at goldfish crackers, get your body there. You took your eyes off of it, well, your finger definitely is not going to get to where you need to be because your eyes aren't there. So the key is in the eyes. You have to train the eyes. And once their eyes can track and follow, usually their body will fall into place. I mean, it's a labor of love, but we've done it. And this is Liz's amazing mom, Kim, who just came in. So I was telling everybody about Brian's labor of love with the chairs and yeah, all the great stuff. And for reading and literacy, we follow the 4-block model. And that's that book I told you everybody needs, Children with Disabilities, Reading and Writing the 4-Block Way. We did reading, writing, working with words, self-selected reading. We implemented Reading A to Z books. We regularly assess reading comprehension using the Fontes and Pinnell benchmark assessment, and we adapted that. So again, people would say that our tests are not valid, because we adapted it, but they are in my eyes because that's what we needed to do. We researched what general education teachers presented during their lessons, and we implemented it with Liz because we learned through research that they do not need different instruction or curriculum. They just need better instruction. So I would just contact a local teacher at my neurotypical daughter's school and say, hey, what are second graders learning this month? What are third graders learning this month? She would tell me, and I would find a way to adapt it for Liz. We personalized books and curriculum to Liz's interests. Obviously, she likes music. We saw that in the videos. So we found books on Taylor Swift, and we read books on Taylor Swift. We found books on Adam Levine. We found whatever we had to personalize it to Liz and make it interesting. We also did science and social studies, so if possible, I would make the curriculum circular. So if we're learning about a book about the national parks, we would be in science learning about plants and trees. And in social studies, we might be learning about what you need to go camping or local places in the community. So she was just immersed in the curriculum for further comprehension. And most importantly, we had direct instruction of skills. So these kids need a lot of practice. So if I am teaching her about true and false questions and making false questions true, I am talking her through how you do that. I'm directly teaching her before I'm assessing her. So guided reading, what is it and how did we do it? So guided reading is so important because this is how we assess comprehension, and this is also a way for Liz or any kid to show us what they know and what they've learned. So you have before, during, and after reading activities. So I would always activate Liz's background knowledge before starting any activity, whether that be looking at pictures of things she's done with her family, watching YouTube videos, reading an article on Time for Kids, anything to get her to activate what she already knows. I would always state the purpose of why we're doing what we're doing. Everybody likes to know, why are we here? What are we learning? And our kids are no different. So I would tell Liz, hey, Liz, today we're reading this book to identify the main idea and supporting details. So when you're reading, you really need to pay attention to details of the book. You know, every kid does better when they know what they're supposed to be doing. And then we would always follow up the activity or the book with an activity that directly related to the purpose of what we were reading and why we were reading. We'd follow the same book for the whole week. So if it's a book on Taylor Swift, we'd read the whole book for a week on Taylor Swift. And I would just continually change the activities for comprehension. Because repeated text, especially at early level readers, are key. You know, first graders hear the same book. I think my daughter in first grade read the same book sometimes for 2 weeks. So repeated text is key for beginning readers. So other things we did for Liz's access for reading, we scanned and imported the book into the computer. We added multimedia to increase comprehension. If needed, you can have the computer could read the text to Liz. We implemented a touch screen with a key guard for independence. We added vocabulary support if needed. We used a communication system, her communication system, for commenting, writing, and comprehension. And if needed, because it's taxing. I worked with Liz, like I said, 4 hours a day. It's taxing to constantly use the communication system and think, where are the words in my device? So if I was asking her about a concert and Taylor Swift, I might say, I'm going to get you to the page, but you need to answer me. And I would just talk her through it. So Liz, I want you to describe Taylor Swift. I'm going to get you to categories. I'm getting you to description and weather. I'm taking you to the next page. I'm taking you to people descriptors. Give me a descriptor of Taylor Swift now. So Liz, the majority of time, is getting there independently, but if she's tired, I will take her to the place where she needs to be, but she has to give me the answer. And I'm modeling and talking out loud to her where she can find the answer so she knows the next time. And then we used reading A to Z books, novels, Don Johnston start to finish core curriculum. Don Johnston has really great books, start to finish books. Have you guys ever seen any? They're great. They're like living books on the computer. So Don Johnston is a special needs curriculum company, and they have hundreds of books on DVD, and they're animated, and they have activities to go with them. It's a really great resource, Don Johnston is. So why is guiding reading so important? Without instruction aimed at making meaning from text, children are left with an impression that reading is merely decoding words and successfully saying or identifying them out loud. So this is going back to flashcards. If we don't teach children guided reading and comprehension, they're just going to think reading is flashcards, and that's not what reading is. I can teach a monkey to identify flashcards. Truly, we can. I think that research has been done. We can identify a monkey. I expect more from children than I expect from a monkey.
Can I add something there?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I'm a general ed teacher and a special ed teacher. And when I was teaching general ed students, I would also teach them active reading. So this is no different than I used to teach my general ed students to, identify things in the text that they knew, to comment and annotate. What do you think about that? What do you wonder about that? What questions do you have? And general ed teachers do this all the time with their students. That's how they teach reading comprehension. So it just looks different. The technology that we use looks different for our kids with Mowatt Wilson syndrome, but all of the principles are exactly
the same. Everything's exactly the same. So when Liz first started reading, we used something like this. This is a felt book. It's probably about the size of this file folder. And we printed out a book, we laminated it, put Velcro on it, we made the words bigger, and we put them in order. And this is what I'm talking about, vocab support. We would put the picture above the vocab word. Cow was a vocab word. Barn was a vocab word. But something not to be confused is there's a lot of research, and I'm sure you see this in your schools. Symbolated text is not recommended for children with disabilities. And I know you see it all the time, but all the research shows it requires double processing. So now I'm processing a picture and a word. What am I supposed to be paying attention to? You need to be paying attention to the word, not the picture. Because have you ever seen what the symbol for the is in symbolated text? It's an arrow. It like makes no sense. Like you're supposed to know that that's the word the, and then the symbolated text for is an equal sign. Like they just need to learn to read the word because you're doubling their processing now. This is how we adapt some of the books for Liz. This is on a program called Clicker. It's now, this is Clicker 6, it's now Clicker 7 because they've upgraded. But you'll hear my voice talking through it. This is Liz's key guard. You see these holes? This is her key guard for the computer. It Velcros over her computer screen. So she's able to touch, activate the screen with an exact target. Because if there's not a key guard, and this is part of her access system, Liz was a raker. And by raker, I mean, well, we needed to get rid of that habit because you're not going anywhere with it raking. So we put on a key guard so she knew exactly where she needed to touch, what she needed to touch, and she would get some feedback when she touched that spot. And believe it or not, I mean, it took about a year, but she hardly rakes the TV at home anymore. No. So, you know, we're giving her the tools and the direct instruction of how to use something appropriately. And it's not by raking. This has a meaning.
So another way to help support further comprehension and guided reading, or what I like to call also joint shared reading experiences, is using video comprehension. And shared reading is when a teacher can read part of the book, and then the student can read part of the book. It just takes some of the labor off their eyes, and especially when you're reading a long book, it's good to break up some of that reading so the child stays interested in what they're reading. So Liz loves Taylor Swift, as most young girls do. So I found a leveled reader called When I Grew Up, Taylor Swift, and I scanned it into her dynamic access media, and I used video support to further comprehension. So we start off by watching a movie. And you can scan movies in by specialized computer programs.
So we downloaded the video from YouTube.
So we watched a short video in the beginning about Taylor Swift when she was growing up.
And these buttons, forward and backwards, allows Liz to turn the page of the book.
So we don't have to watch it all for the training purposes, but we watch a short video on Taylor Swift, just about a minute long, and then Liz would begin reading about Taylor Swift. Again, I took off the media button of her being able to access the text because she would only want to listen to it and not actually read it.
Yeah.
So
she
reads, and then you can build in comprehension questions right in the reading book.
What state did Taylor grow up in? What state did Taylor grow up in?
And as you can see, the choices are all lined up with the key guard. Was it Tennessee, Illinois, or Pennsylvania?
So
from the book, you would know that it's Pennsylvania.
So this allows you to test, I don't want to run short on time, but that allows you to test or assess what they read right in the book. And you're giving them a way to access it because it's all lined up with the key guard. You know, I think a lot of times teachers get hung up on how are we really going to know they understand what they read? You know, how are we going to access them? Well, that's an easy way to access them. And that key guard literally probably costs $5 to make. It's a piece of plexiglass, and we have a round drill bit. I mean, Liz's dad made it, and it just is Velcroed on top of the computer. And then this is The Chocolate Touch. She just finished reading. That's a third grade novel, The Chocolate Touch. And that button, I'll show you, it allows you to hear the text.
So this is how we adapt books for Liz using the computer. This is another form of access for any child who has access issues that you're training on more dynamic media. So we used a program called Clicker 7, and we adapted the page for a key guard So it allows Liz to have independence, turning the pages forward or backwards. And if needed, we can activate the text to be read. And you can just move that button down here for sound activation. But for Liz's purposes, we do not require that right now. So she silently reads along. This button allows it to be read.
John had one bad fault. He devoured candy, especially chocolate candy.
And this is touch activated, so it allows you to turn the page forward. And you can turn it backwards.
So that's just another way Liz accesses. That's how she grew in her access. So we started very basic with just a felt book, and then we worked our way up to a computer book. So word work, what is it? It's decoding and spelling of words and fluency in high-frequency words. What we did is we used Systematic Sequential Phonics by Patricia Cunningham. She's a big name in literacy. And we also used Making Words. She has 2 books, Making Words by Patricia Cunningham. We used Clicker 6 because now, since she had the key guard, she can spell words, right? If you just line up the letters with those key guards, she's able to move her fingers to create different words. We use the keyboard in her device to spell. This is the only time I drill sight words, is if they are in a text that she needs to know. So if we're reading, at the beginning when we were reading like lower level books, like level C books, which is kindergarten level books, they would say the sight words you need to know in this book are the, of, is, and my. Well, I wanted to make sure she knew those sight words before I just gave her that book. So that's when I would drill those words to make sure she knew them, but then they were just immediately generalized into the book. Does that make sense? So this is what the Patricia Cunningham Making Words book looks like, and it will say, these are the letters you need, A, D, N, S, and T. Those are the only letters you need for this lesson. And we would do the lesson for the whole week. Give me 2 letters to spell the word at. What's the first letter, Liz? We use Post-it notes. I'm a big fan of Post-it notes. Post-it notes can solve world problems, I think. So we would just line the Post-it notes up. Liz, what's the first letter? Is it this one or is it this one? She'd take the letter A. Great. What's the second letter? I'd put up 2 more choices. Is it T or is it D? At. She'd take the T. All right, Liz, great. You just spelled the word at. Now, I'm going to take away 1 letter of at, and I want you to spell the word an. What's our new N sound in an? So she's systematically figuring out the way letters work together to make words. It's a beautiful program. It really is. And it gives you all of the lessons. I mean, there's 70 lessons in this book. This took us 2 years to go through. It's a really great book. So why does working with words matter? Studies using systematic instruction have shown promises result for teachers, for teaching students to decode words. For an example, the study showed that the use of direct instruction to teach students with multiple and severe disabilities who use AAC systems to match phonemes to initial sounds of words, blend phonemes, and read vowel consonants and consonant vowel consonant words. With this approach, participants were able to read words in text format and generalize the learned skills to tackle new words. So this means that our AAC users were able to not only decode words, but generalize it into text when taught systematic phonics. So writing, I'm not talking about an OT coming in and cutting on a line or tracing zigzags or tracing circles. I'm talking about actual literacy writing. It increases your students' ability to read. It allows them to generalize skills that they learned in making words and vocab that they had in exposure to guided reading. It's a time to learn how language works, right? Do I need to add a word? Am I missing a word? Do I need to add an ing or an s? It's a time to apply skills that they learned with working with words. How did we do it? Well, we scaffolded. So we started out with closed sentences, and then we worked our way up to whole word writing using words in her device, to typing with the alphabet, and we modeled. Go into a neurotypical classroom, gen ed teachers are constantly writing on the board what they're thinking and teaching their students how to write. And then they have individual conferences with the kiddos who are writing in their journals and how they can make their writing better. So we basically did the same thing with Liz. Liz, just write to write. I don't care what you write about. Use your device. Let's just write. Most of the time she would write about Disney World or Taylor Swift or Adam Levine or One Direction or something like that. But I didn't care. We just wrote to wrote or write to write. And then I would have a mini lesson with her. Liz, we're really going to talk about word choice right now. I don't like that you use the word cute a million times. Let's think of different words for cute. So then we're going to work on synonyms, and then we're going to work on implementing them in our text. So we would just come up with a million different mini lessons that Liz needed to know in order to be a better writer. And we used graphic organizers, we made lists, and most important for any writer is publishing your work. So we would make PowerPoint books. We put some on Tar Heel Reader. Have you guys heard of Tar Heel Reader? Tar Heel Reader is a great resource from University of North Carolina, again, Chapel Hill. It's free, sign up for it. It's age-appropriate books on a million different topics that people with disabilities wrote. And this is where Liz published some of her work. And she can go back and look at it because it's on the web. And most importantly, your kids need to find their alternative pencil because our kids aren't picking up a pen probably and writing something, right? And they're probably not even using a typical QWERTY keyboard. So an alternative keyboard is defined as anything that provides a student with access to all 26 letters of the alphabet. And University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill is really big on this, but so is Rhett University. Rhett University is the most amazing resource that you will find. Susan Norwell is my personal mentor, and she is the Rhett University founder, one of the founders, and she's the AT literacy guru there is. And she invented this thing called an ABC flip book. And there's a video you can watch on how to use it. So let's say you want to know if your kiddo knows how to spell the word cat. That's the first page. A is in yellow because it's a vowel. A, B, C, D. Johnny, is the first letter of cat on this page, yes or no? Yes, it is. Okay, is it A? Is the first letter of cat A? Yes or no? No. Is it B? Yes or no? No. Is it C? Yes. Okay, it's C. I'm going to write that down for you. It's C. So you're teaching them how letters work to go together. And this is a great way to start an alternative pencil. And they also have a core word flip book as well. And there's the link down there for Rhett University, and they have a demo of how to use it. And that's just an IntelliTools keyboard. And these are examples of Liz's writing. This is just how she started out with closed sentence. Look over there, it's a dolphin, and we added picture support to it. She did add some comments, like dolphins talk about fish, which was a bonus. That wasn't the purpose of this activity. This is her whole word writing. I go to Target, shop for makeup. I ask Mom for money. Mom loves to help me choose makeup. We get eyeshadow. It's purple. Also, I get lipstick. It's red. I buy makeup because I feel pretty putting it on. So then we had a couple mini lessons, and I said, I wanted to condense these sentences. This is choppy. I want better writing out of you, Liz. And she said, I go to Target because I want makeup. I ask Mom for money. I buy purple eyeshadow. Also, I get lipstick. It's red. Mom loves to help me choose makeup. I feel pretty putting it on. So, we just go back to the drawing board after she writes to see how we can make it better. And I added these because I wanted to show you how eye-opening it is with instruction. This is Liz's writing using the alphabet. And her device, she has an ABC page. Using the alphabet. Fairy Godmom, Fairy, F-A-R-Y, Godmom, trip to Disney, D-S-N-Y, a wedding really fun. Dessert to eat all the time, concert at my home. Okay, that's not bad spelling, right? You knew what she was trying to get across, right? Not bad. This is my daughter in first grade, neurotypical. This was in March. Yesterday, Y-E-S-H-E-R-D-A-Y, yes, her day. I'm a teacher. Yesterday, I sold Girl Scout, S-C-K-O-O-L, cookies, and my grandma, G-R-A-M-A, and grandpa's friend Dee Dee bought, B-O-U-Y-T-E, 8 boxes, B-O-X-I-S-E. I counted up the money, M-O-U-N-E-Y. She just came for the cookies. So thanks a lot, Dee Dee. So the thing is, there's not that big of a difference between the two. You know, this is a neurotypical first grader, neurotypical meaning as typical as can be, you know, first grader, and this is Liz's writing. It's not that much different, and this was all done through systematic instruction. Now, it took us 6 years almost to get there, but it was possible, it was done. So self-selected reading, what is it? It's just a time to leisure read. Like most of us moms are probably in a book club and we sometimes talk about the book and sometimes we don't. So this is just an opportunity for our kiddos to pick a book that they like for their leisure time and to talk about it and to comment about it. It's a time to develop a love for reading. It's a time to develop their interests. So you might be thinking, how can they even access this book? How can they pick a book? Well, Tar Heel Reader is a great resource. There's all these age-appropriate books. There's Raz Kids. Storyline Online. Have you guys ever seen that on YouTube? It's such a cool website. It's celebrities reading children's books, like that you'd see out now, like cool children's books. There's Tumble Books, which is usually free through your library. Start to Finish Books by Don Johnston. There's Bookshare. Book trailers on YouTube, and myownbookstogo.com. You can get a free subscription for maybe 6 weeks, and then maybe it's $80, but it's also kind of your kid's own bookshelf to develop. They have about 800 books online to read. It's a pretty cool resource. Other curriculums we used were STEM by AbleNet. We used News2You for current events. Learning A to Z, we got some of our science and writing activities from there. Discovery Education. Here's some resources for you guys to kind of check out. And all of my credits with my research articles. And do you guys have any questions?